What up, Bucs fans, NFL fans, and gambling fans? Welcome to week 9 of Pewter Picks and Props, brought to you by PewterReport.com. I'm your host, Matt Matera. We're going to break down college football, the NFL, and of course, Bucs versus Chiefs, a road game for Tampa Bay, heading to Kansas City, going to Arrowhead. We'll get into the spread, the over-under, and have a couple of player props for that one as well. Thank you so much to all of you for tuning in this week. Let's get right to it. Player props for Bucs, feeling pretty good. Went 4-0 last week. So feeling it with the Bucs player props. We'll save that for the end. Let's start off with college football. Have 3 games on the slate for you this week. This first one, an ACC matchup. 2 teams trying to jockey for position of getting into that ACC championship game. One of them is undefeated, and they are home. We'll see if that undefeated streak continues. With that said, Duke plus 21 is my pick at Miami. They are going to the home place of the Hurricanes. And I know Miami just beat the crap out of Florida State in their last game. But those 2 previous games against Cal and Louisville, they were both on the road, but it was very close for Miami in those games. They've had several games this year where they've been favored by 17 points or more, and they've really only covered 1 or 2 of them. So Duke is playing for their season, for a chance to get into the ACC championship game. Duke cannot be taken lightly. They've had some close games this year. They've had some good wins. And they're like 6-2 on the season. So they're a team that's been competitive, and I think will hang tough with Miami. Ultimately, I believe Miami wins the game, but not by 3 touchdowns. So with a close battle, championship game, or a berth on the line, I'll take Duke plus 21. This next game, an SEC matchup. Actually, all 3 matchups I have today are interconference rivalry / matchups. I'm riding the train of Texas A&M. I know they're on the road this week, but I'll take a minus 2.5 at South Carolina. Texas A&M with a big win over LSU, a fun matchup that I picked correctly last week. That was a home game for Texas A&M, and they had to battle through some adversity. They weren't looking great at first against LSU, but then put it together. I like them minus 2.5 against South Carolina because South Carolina had a chance to show that they are a legit team. A couple of weeks ago, they hung tough with LSU, but LSU ended up winning. And then they went up against Ole Miss, and Ole Miss was coming off of a loss, so maybe it's a little bit of a bounce-back game for them. But Ole Miss beat the ever-loving crap out of South Carolina. They didn't score a ton. It was their defense that shut down South Carolina. So what do you think is going to happen when Texas A&M brings their defense that can hang with anybody into their house? I think Texas A&M, they figured a lot of stuff out. They are not the same team that lost in week 1 to Notre Dame. So their defense versus an offense that has understood what they need to do. I'll take Texas A&M minus 2.5 all day. This next matchup starts at noon, a very exciting one in the Big Ten. Ohio State at Penn State. I'm liking the over of 45. I know Ohio State can put up points, so I think it's more of a question about what can Penn State do. Now, 2 weeks ago, they played against USC, who doesn't have the toughest of defenses, but they were able to score over 30 against USC in a big matchup against a big team. Penn State has struggled in the past against Ohio State, but maybe the fact that this is a home game for Penn State, I'm thinking both teams will maybe not even get 30, but score in the high 20s. Ohio State didn't look great beating Nebraska. And they're obviously the week before that or the game before that, they're coming off of losing to Oregon. So this is a little bit of a gut check type of game. Figure yourself out. Again, Big Ten championship. An appearance is on the line for both of these teams. Going to be a tough one. Maybe a little bit of a struggle. I think the second half things might open up, but I'll take the over of 45. Moving on to the NFL, I have 4 NFL picks. And then Bucs versus Chiefs. So starting in the NFL, an AFC matchup, I got to continue to ride. I got to continue to go with the most electrifying quarterback in football, and that is Jameis Winston. Browns +2 at the Chargers. Jameis and the Browns with a huge win over the Ravens at home last week. Now they go to LA. Chargers do have a tough defense, but they got nothing on offense besides Justin Herbert. They have no receivers. They do have a pretty good run game, but the Browns are rejuvenated. They're a good team when Deshaun Watson isn't their quarterback. Now Jameis is their quarterback. We saw it last year when Joe Flacco came in. This year they're doing it with Jameis. Taking the Browns +2. Speaking of the Ravens, I have them in their game with the Broncos. This game is at Baltimore, under a 45.5. The Broncos defense is legit. They're really good. Their offense, Bo Nix has proved a lot of people wrong, but I don't think they're a high-flying offense by any means. Lamar Jackson is very banged up. He's questionable to go for the game. This line will drastically change if Lamar Jackson doesn't play, but I got it at 45.5. The under 45.5. And I think the numbers for the Ravens may balloon a little bit based off of that Monday night performance where they just absolutely shredded the Bucs defense. And that's fine because the Ravens are a really good team, but they're not going to line up the scoreboard week in and week out. So you got a tough Broncos defense traveling, pretty good Ravens team overall. They're going to be pissed that they just lost to the Browns, even though they had won 5 in a row. So tough matchup. I'll take the under 45.5. This next game is probably the most exciting game of the week. Lions at Packers over 48. The Lions offense is high flying. It's incredible. It's exceptional. It doesn't matter that they're going on the road and they're playing outside of a dome. They can score anywhere, anytime. So excited for that. Jordan Love needs to play in this game. But if he does, the Packers can score points. The fact that the Lions don't have Aiden Hutchinson for the rest of the year slows down their pass rush a good amount. It's high flying. We want to see the fireworks, so over 48 is the pick. This last one for the rest of the NFL, Eagles -7.5. They are hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Eagles are high flying. They've put up an abundance of points over the last 2 games, just destroying teams. They figured out their groove on offense. Plus, their receivers are healthy. Overall, their unit is healthy. The Jaguars just spent the last month in London. They got to actually go and play an opponent on the road in a different environment with the crowd against them, all of that stuff. I think they'll impact them greatly. And the Eagles continue their hot streak and cover -7.5. So those are all the picks for college and around the NFL. Time for Bucs versus Chiefs on Monday Night Football. It's the only game in town on Monday Night Football, and as crazy and chaotic as the Bucs season has been, it should at least be entertaining. And of course, Bucs fans watching this want their team to win the game. With that said, I just don't see it happening against the Kansas City Chiefs. Not even because of what Kansas City can do as a team, but what Tampa Bay can't do on the defensive side of the football. So for the spread itself and the over-under, taking Chiefs -8.5 and the over of 45.5. I really didn't like what I heard from Todd Bowles and Larry Foote this week about the inside linebacker position. They still won't platoon KJ Britt because they don't trust anybody else to play defense. The other guys aren't up to speed at inside linebacker. And how is that the case 9 weeks into the season after months and months and months of preparation? I don't care that they're rookies or young players. You have no other answers. We've seen what this defense looks like over the past 3 weeks, and it's horrible, and it's abysmal, and it's awful. So the Chiefs' offense, which hasn't even been that spectacular this year, the Chiefs haven't scored 30 points yet in a game. They will on Monday night because they're going to have their way with the Bucs defense. Not much of a pass rush, can't cover over the middle, especially at inside linebacker. And God bless the Bucs offense. I think they'll be able to do some things, even against a really difficult Chiefs defense. They're not going to be able to score every single time. That's just almost impossible in Arrowhead. So because of that, it's Chiefs -8.5. And because the Bucs defense cannot stop a nosebleed or anyone or anything, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The Bucs haven't really changed anything besides putting Josh Hayes in there, who the Chiefs are going to attack with DeAndre Hopkins, with Xavier Worthy. Travis Kelce's going to destroy the Bucs defense over the middle. The over has hit in the last 4 or 5 games for the Bucs. This is an auto play. You run it until you stop it. Over 45.5. That one's probably the best play out of all of this. Let's move on over to the player props. Starting with a couple of quarterback props. This one should not be surprising based on what I just said. Patrick Mahomes over 242.5 passing yards. You're just going to throw it all day. You want to play soft zone? Fine. Patrick Mahomes will slice and dice you. You want to play a little bit of man? Fine. They're going to pick on Josh Hayes. I see no way that the Bucs slow down Patrick Mahomes, who hasn't really had a brilliant statistical season. They're undefeated, so they're fine. But statistically, Mahomes hasn't really been that good. He's going to have a blow-up game on Monday Night Football against this porous Bucs defense. And on the other side of things, if the Bucs are going to keep it close, it's going to be because they're running the football and they're taking the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands, not because they don't trust Baker, but because their ground game has been so good. So factor in that the Bucs will probably run it more than usual, especially with how the last game ended. With the fact that the Chiefs are going to try to limit the amount of targets for Cade Otton, and the Bucs have to find out who's going to step up at wide receiver. Hopefully it's Rakim Jarrett, but we can't guarantee that. If the Bucs get down by a little bit, it's going to work two ways. Either the Bucs are going to keep it close, and it's going to be because they're running the football, and if they're running the football, that means Baker's not throwing it. Or they're going to get down by a lot because their defense can't stop anything, and the Bucs can't go shot for shot against Kansas City. Baker's going to be forced to throw it a million times, but if you know that he's going to throw it, that's when defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo thrives. He's going to send the house. Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator, called it organized chaos. I think that's great. But when you know they're going to pass it, you're not as effective. So under for Baker Mayfield, 237.5 on the passing yards. Going back to the Chiefs, got to trust Andy Reid to find a great game plan against the Bucs. It's going to be centered around Travis Kelce. So if you're a Taylor Swift fan like myself, get ready to see Taylor a lot because I think her tour just ended or it's close to done. So she'll probably be at the game. And when Travis Kelce has 3 touchdowns and over 175 yards because the Bucs can't guard tight ends, she's going to be all over the screen. So excited to see Taylor watch going on. Shout out to Taylor Swift. But Travis Kelce, we've seen the tight ends destroy the Bucs defense over the past 2 weeks. Travis Kelce had his best game last week for the Chiefs, getting a touchdown and I believe had 90 yards or whatever the case may be. Maybe it was over 100. Regardless, that was a quote-unquote breakout game for Travis Kelce last week. That's just going to continue now because they're going to find creative ways to get the ball, and the best way to attack the Bucs is over the middle of the field. So Travis Kelce all day, over 59.5 receiving yards. My last prop, going back to the Bucs, huge fan of Bucky Irving, over 31.5 rushing yards. He's their best running back. He's proven he can break tackles. He can go up against great defenses. Bucs are going to pound the rock as much as they can. All 3 running backs will be involved, but if anything, we know that they love running with Bucky, even though they just say, yeah, we don't need Sean Tucker, even though he was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week a couple of weeks ago. Rashad White will do his thing in the passing game if the Bucs are going to be successful. So Bucky Irving gets the most rushing attempts, gets far over 31.5 rushing yards. Big fan of that prop bet. And my touchdown prop bet of the week, sticking with Bucky Irving, he's going to reach the end zone, punch it in at least one time, and that is a payout of plus 210. So hopefully the Bucs can keep it somewhat close, get Bucky Irving those goal line carries, and let him continue what has been a fantastic rookie season. I just don't see the Bucs being able to hang close enough with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm really concerned about the Bucs defense. Doesn't look like there's going to be many adjustments to it. So we'll see what happens on Monday night, but those are all of my picks. I appreciate all of you for rocking with me. If you want to follow me on social media, you can see it down there at the bottom at Matty4_Matera. You can follow Pewter Report at Pewter Report on Facebook, X, Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. So that'll do it for this week's episode. I'm Matt Matera. Thanks, everybody, for watching on Pewter Report's YouTube channel. We'll see you next week, and let's win some money. Out.